As we continue through this Advent, this almost Christmas season, one of the things that begins to pop up more and more this time of year is Christmas movies. And one of the most classic, I think, is Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. That 1964 stop-motion favorite. It just has so much to it. From Hermie to Rudolph to Santa to Yukon Cornelius. There's a lot going on. And maybe one of the most memorable aspects is the journey that they take to the island of misfit toys, the place where all the unloved or unwanted toys reside. It's this fascinating notion, I think, focusing in on a group of misfits. Those toys that for various reasons have been deemed unworthy or undesirable. These characters, who others believe to be less important, the ones who are just not quite as good. In some ways, they seem kind of like perfect characters for a Bible story. Because repeatedly in our Bible, we find some misfits. We find the outsiders. We find the most unlikely of individuals. And it's that kind of person that our Lord uses to share his message or to get his job done. More often than not, it's these individuals living or doing things or approaching their situation in maybe an atypical or unexpected or unique and creative way that helps them to live out their role, serving God well. And today, as we take another moment to reflect upon St. Joseph, I think we might look at him a little bit like this. A man who was thrust into this kind of a misfit situation. A husband who had been resourceful in all kinds of ways. A creatively courageous father who was willing to do what needed to be done for his family and for his God. Now, to be clear, I don't think I'd call Joseph a misfit, really. By all accounts, he was a good, righteous man who had a solid profession and was an upstanding guy. But it was this kind of crazy, kind of misfit lot in life that he was asked to take on. And I think that's one of the reasons why Pope Francis sees it as fitting to recognize Joseph as a creatively courageous father. In Patris Corde, Pope Francis points out how throughout some of the most intriguing stories in the Bible, God always finds a way. Time and again, in the face of impossible odds or with the most unlikely of individuals, God finds a way to move his narrative forward and share his goodness with the world. And often, as we noted, this takes some creativity. Sure, in the midst of the unexpected, in the face of difficulty, some might choose to just give up or walk away, but instead, many of the most creative, broad and open-minded figures in our salvation history have chosen to engage in these misfit moments and tackle them head on. Joseph, I think, is certainly one of those people. His righteousness could have led him to only imagine, only picture his faith and his life in kind of a certain specific, this is the only way it can happen kind of way. But instead, he was open-minded enough, creative enough to allow himself to imagine other things and to receive other things as they came. That creativity gave him the ability to contend with an unusual situation like Mary's pregnancy. It gave him the ability to step into these critical moments, like when there's no room in the inn, or, oh no, Herod wants us dead, or to think courageously on his feet in all kinds of ways, following God and figuring out on the fly what to do and where to go. And in a similar way, especially in the world that we live in, that sometimes it seems a bit crazy and upside down and misfit in all kinds of different ways. Well, we're called upon to be a bit like Joseph, to be courageous in our responses, precisely by being creative, open-minded to what might come, and open-minded with the kind of responses that might be the most fitting and most evangelizing for all kinds of different moments. It takes creativity to live a Christian life today. It takes being willing to be brave enough to think outside the box and go against the mold, and sometimes to be a little bit of an outcast, doing what others aren't. That can be truly challenging. But as we see in St. Joseph, when we're willing to open our minds and hearts to God in that kind of way, it can open up all kinds of interesting possibilities. Because, well, he was willing to encounter these challenges, these misfit sorts of moments. St. Joseph, this creatively courageous father, he provides an excellent example to us and is the one who we recognize as really a patron, a supporter, a protector of the afflicted, of the poor, of the dying, of so many in need. He's a protector of many who need to be courageous, need to be creative, all those who need to be open enough to welcome in whatever crazy ways God needs them to be open to. As we continue down this Advent road then, I hope that we might turn to St. Joseph for his inspiration, for his intercession in all the ways that we might be creatively courageous in the lives that we live as well.